Hi, I'm Tim Lennon, Executive Director at Langston.
And I'm Jasmine Scott, the Program Manager at Langston. And I'm here to welcome you to the 18th Annual Seattle Black Film Festival, our second fully online festival.
We look forward to rejoining you here in person soon at the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute in Seattle's Central District. For now, stay healthy, get vaccinated, and enjoy all the programs we have to offer online.
We're so excited to launch this year's festival on a brand new platform, and we've added a ton of video on demand options as well as timed events for you to enjoy. So we're so glad that you could join us again virtually this year for the festival. If you'd like to learn more about the Seattle Black Film Festival, about Langston, about all of our other programs, or to donate in support of our programs, please visit langstonseattle.org.
On behalf of the Langston family, I want to thank our sponsors and each and every one of you for joining us here for this year's film festival. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy.
Welcome to Seattle Black Film Festival 2021. I'm Festival Director Andrea Stewart-Lahall.
And I'm Zola Mumford, Festival Curator.
You made it. You're here, and we're so glad you joined us.
This year, we're excited to share over 70 films from across the diaspora, telling stories that elevate Black cinematic brilliance. Our stories? Stories that speak our truth.
Before we get started, here are a few notes about this year's festival.
This year, we are fully online, so you don't even have to leave your home to catch some of the best new films in Black independent cinema.
Please assume that any films in this year's festival may include mature content. Please do your best to make your own choices about what might be appropriate for you.
Also, we've done our best to deliver an accessible festival, so some of our films do feature closed captioning or subtitles.
A huge thank you to Langston and our entire filmmaking community and filmmakers of this year's official selection. We are so excited. Have a great festival.
And thank you for joining us for Seattle Black Film Festival 2021. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am excited to be talking to these filmmakers, and I'm going to give you some very quick bios. Of course, they all have vast amounts of experience in many different areas, but this will be a summary. And you can definitely check in with them on social media. We'll post that information within Elevate so that you can find out more. So we're going in alphabetical order. Cherrye J. Davis is an actor, director, writer, poet, educator, and MC. She's a graduate of NYU's Tisch School of the Arts with numerous television, writing and directing and acting credits, as well as an extensive theater background. She's the playwright of original works such as How to Mourn an American, Sold, and Dreams in Scarspace. Her full-length choreo poem, Tapes, was presented in the Movement Theater Company's Ladder series. She's also well known as a musician and lead vocalist for the acclaimed Roots Blues Experience, The Nervous, and the hip-hop funk outfit Death Row Toll. Sony Mustafa is a writer, director, actor, cinematographer, and creator. He earned a full academic scholarship to the prestigious University School of Milwaukee, a nationally renowned college prep high school. He further distinguished himself by receiving the Presidential Gold Seal for academics and athletics. He studied with acclaimed Chicago photographer David Van der Veen and has an impressive portfolio of commercials that resulted, along with an affinity for still photography, video, and film. He has worked professionally in nearly every crew position there is in both television and film. He also has some amazing original TV pilots, including Fight Night Legacy and Olympia. And he received a Streamy Award nomination in 2013 and the grand prize at the LA Webfest. His most recent pilot, Grayson Earth One, which is his own take on the origins of the DC Comics hero Nightwing, has received great reviews. We are happy to welcome back Nicole Pouchet, a director who has shown work with the Seattle Black Film Festival before, specifically her short Wretch. A former Broadway assistant director, Nicole Pouchet is a published novelist and produced screenwriter. She is the head writer for Zombie Orpheus Entertainment's award-winning fantasy TV series, Strowlers. Her horror and social thriller short Wretch premiered at the Seattle International Film Festival in 2019. She was thrilled to film her directorial debut, an episode of Strowlers, which she also wrote in Copenhagen in 2019. She is a board member of the Northwest Screenwriters Guild and a guest lecturer for the University of Virginia's Darden School of Business. I'm going to turn it over to the filmmakers now, and if everyone would, just repeat your name and say hello, and we'll repeat the question after you introduce yourself. Please share where you are joining us from and talk a little bit about the theme of Black brilliance. Share a creator or an artistic work that is okay. Share a reference with us relating to an artistic creator or an artistic work that inspires Black brilliance for you in these times. Who'd like to start? Let's see. Well, Hisoni, you are on the upper left on my screen, and we can go clockwise.
Awesome. Hello, I am Hisoni Mustafa. I am a filmmaker in Las Vegas, Nevada. Very excited to be a part of this year's film festival. In regards to Black brilliance, I always think of, first and foremost, I think about Muhammad Ali, mostly because he shows how Africans have kind of hit a whole spectrum of excellence. He was excellent at athletics. He was excellent at art. I mean, he was definitely a poet. He was a comedian. And he was very, very much a civil rights entity and a civil rights leader, not just for Blacks, but in the Vietnam War. And he also shows
the true, to me, one of the truest senses of bravery, because his journey towards civil rights started with giving up everything he ever worked to get, and then speaking of not only on behalf of Blacks but all underrepresented minorities and even the Vietnamese we were fighting at the time. So and so on and so forth. You can go with Jim Brown. And today, most recently, I think I'm very into listening to John Singleton speak and Spike Lee, because they all do the same. They don't just stay in their lane. They're excellent across the board.
Well said. It's just, I think, part of the Black experience. You walk in many worlds. Next, let's hear from Cherrye.
Yes, y'all. What's going on? My name is Cherrye J. Davis, reporting from Brooklyn. This is Muncie Land, the Lenni Lenape. And I am a filmmaker of the film covered in this year's festival. I'm so honored to be here. Black excellence. I mean, where do you even start, right? Like, come on, there's just a list. Who's moving me right now? In terms of like filmmaking and in terms of like really pushing the boundaries of like what Black expression has looked like and building upon that legacy. I'm in love with Rada Blank. I've been in love with Rada Blank for a really long time, but of course it's so nice to see that shine happen for her for 40-year-old version. Also, dope playwright. Boom. Right. In terms of music, I think music is the thing that I think wakes me up in the morning. It inspires so much of my writing. It inspires so much of my teaching and my work. And so who usually moves me and usually challenges me to open my mind and to live my best Black experience. I love Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar, to me, in terms of like opening up what, again, building on that legacy looks like, and really expanding even the imagination is really just, I think that's Black brilliance to me. So, yeah.
Awesome. Nicole?
Okay, I am Nicole Pouchet, and I am in Renton, Washington, right outside of Seattle. So I absolutely am thrilled to be a part of Seattle Black Film Festival this year and last. What should I say? There's one quote that pretty much kind of defines my life and what I do, and that's by Nina Simone. And it's an artist's duty to reflect the times in which we live. So just about everything that I do, from writing to poetry to novels, whatever I do it's trying to some way reflect what's going on in life. And that's reflecting the bad things, reflecting the good things, making sure that our stories are out there and we are human in as many stories as I can possibly get out there. Because I think that just the act of existing without constant trauma porn is something that is a beautiful thing for us to have in film and in all of our art. So that quote is something that I live by. What I love just reading is N.K. Jemisin, because I'm a science fiction girl. So I love her books. I've been obsessed with Octavia Butler forever. But as far as somebody who's alive right now, that would be N.K. Jemisin. Love her books. And I would say that Janelle Monáe's music just moves me. So I'm just constantly listening to her music, particularly, my kids complain because I sit there and I cook and I listen to Janelle Monáe like way too much. So, I think that's about it for me for Black brilliance. There's of course lots more, but I'm going to stop talking because that's where I am right now.
Thank you so much, everyone. So let's get into the discussion. It's exciting to see such a variety of topics and styles across your three films. Cherrye, your film speaks to COVID-19 specifically, but I'm sure that for everyone, all of your productions were affected in some way by last year's unique situation. What was it like for each of you being in production or post-production in 2020? And you can jump right in, doesn't have to be the same order.
Well, I can go ahead and start. I can say that we wrapped this film actually in 2019. And then we were in post in 2020. And I got sick with COVID in March of last year. So it was kind of rough for me in terms of health and trying to complete the film. So yeah, it was rough is the biggest thing I can say. I've just started getting back into filmmaking in the last month or two. So 2020 was just kind of a lost year besides just being head down, look at what I'm doing and like revamping the music and redoing some of the things for the film. Other than that, it was many things canceled. So it was a big effect on me and our films.
Sorry to hear that, but glad that you are with us this evening.
You're up, Cheryl.
I was gonna say that yeah, I think my piece specifically deals with COVID because it was made at a time and directly influenced by what I was experiencing during that time. Even though it is very much a COVID film, it's deeply influenced, I think, by all the things that were happening around, the recognitions that were happening around 2020, and those are not just like a pandemic slowing everything down. It's also like the awareness of various conversations, socioeconomic barriers. We're talking about racial injustice. We're talking about like these larger conversations that we're having. It was interesting to kind of make a film during that time because I think it cleared the way for conversations that I don't know if I would have been having the same way without the space, right? Literally not being able to work in different capacities. I felt like there was space cleared. And so in many ways it was a challenge, literally having to have a really small team, much smaller than I'm used to, right? But also having to think creatively about how to keep each other safe. And also how to have conversations in the middle, or should I say, in the continuation and the increase of the protests and the and people being held accountable to the conversations of racial injustice in this country. Having that space, I think, was really important at the time.
All right. Well, that is about the most difficult question that could have been asked to me tonight because my mind starts to race. My film, Takeout Girl, is about a 20-year-old Asian American woman whose family is dealing with crushing poverty and all of the bad choices she makes to try and lift her family out of that crushing poverty. And from about March 2020 until today, the team of an African American male, and her, a Chinese American female, the context of that has changed completely. It started with George Floyd, and it was this amazing journey of having her and a lot of other members of my team, because my DP is Cuban American and my producer is Filipino American, and we're all so different, but to see how they rallied around me and how they kind of suffered as they saw the George Floyd protest and events affect me. And then it flipped. Our lead actress, our co-writer now, is afraid for her mother to leave the house. But the beautiful thing is, as we were all going through it, we leaned on each other. Like the fact that I was one of the first people she called when she was afraid for her mother to leave the house. And I was able to talk her through that as she cried. And she was one of the first people I could talk to about living my whole life afraid of police for hours on end. So building a blended family was a major result of COVID-19. But one of the greatest honors of 2020 is meeting other COVID kids. I call us the COVID kids, because as if the odds weren't hard enough, Now we are filmmakers that are somehow thriving and finding a platform and finding amazing opportunities like Seattle Black Film Festival to show our films, when a lot of film festivals are shaving down the amount of films they're going to show because they're moving online or canceling altogether. So, on top of the odds, the odds that are against you in a normal year, we now have COVID, but here we are. So there's a lot to be grateful for as well.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Next question. All of you have worked in film and television series. Can you talk about how working across these formats impacts your work?
Nicole, I think you're going to have a wonderful answer to that.
Okay, I'll go. That's a hard one. I think that it's been interesting. Working in television and TV series, web series, all those kinds of things. We have a pretty big story team. So I can't just write something and be like, yep, I'm going, this is what I'm doing. TV has taught me a lot about collaboration and being able to really sit down and get along with people and let your favorite idea be squashed or because someone else's idea is better. So it really taught me a lot about the collaboration that is ultimately needed for features and in short films as well. Because even if you are the director and the writer and executive producer or whoever you are, someone else's idea might be better if you take the time to listen to their idea and empower people to be able to do their jobs and let you know that, hey, you might think this shot is great, but this shot that I might get over here is like 10 times better if you can let go and get out of your own head. So I think that's what TV is, the most valuable lesson that TV has taught me is collaboration.
I would agree with that. I think there's like a huge amount of collaboration. And just even for me, an extra layer has been working simultaneously in film production, TV, and theater. And they all sort of approach like concept and being a visionary in a very kind of different way. Theater is so deeply collaborative in some ways that it was a big switch for me to go into filmmaking as the director and writer, to have a vision in a specific way and say, no, and this is what I think it is, and this is what it looks like, but to also be open. I think those skills of collaboration are 100% helpful in being a filmmaker because it's all about the best idea, right? It's all about the smartest idea and creating the best thing. Right. I 100% agree with you, Nicole. That collaboration is essential.
You guys are 100% on. I'm going to be the third to agree with that. For me, my personal philosophy is people over product. I've never really had a lot of privilege as a filmmaker. I've never really had a lot of opportunities. My journey started with me working odd jobs, not getting my hair cut for 10 years, and like doing whatever I can to scrape up enough money to buy camera lenses and build a production company. And but there has been a huge piece of collaboration is definitely something that rings true. It's thematic in my life, but it came organically. It didn't happen as a result of learning how to work with people. It happened as a result of seeing what worked, in a sense. My like from a story standpoint, the collaboration is beautiful because my mother used to say, "There's nothing new under the sun." Every story's been told, but what makes it feel new is the contributions from the other people that are a little off the wall or a little different because their journey is so much different than yours. And then, of course, when you're making no budget films, the more people you get to collaborate, the bigger you can make the project feel. There's a person who comes in with this prop or this piece of wardrobe or this location, and all of a sudden you're shocked that you're finding your product looks a little bit closer to what you watch on TV than than you would have thought you were capable of doing. So, but the difference between television and film for me has not been much. I think I always start by I have a rules for myself. No monoliths, and if there are any stereotypes that could be applied to the main character, I actively work against those. And I try to be as authentic to the lead character's experience as possible. And then just hope for the best, because Lord knows there's a lot of luck involved in anything I've ever accomplished.
Thanks, everyone. Now I'd like to take some time to show a little bit from each of your films so that the audience can get a taste of what we'll see this weekend. Cherrye, let's start with you. You are a first-time filmmaker, and your film captures some very powerful essence of the moment, feelings that of the time we're living in. Can you tell us a bit more about how this film began? Had you planned to make something like this and then 2020 happened, or was it vice versa?
Thank you. Interestingly, as a writer, a lot of my film work, as an actor and as a writer, a lot of my film work has been either in front of the camera or behind the camera as a writer. And going into the quarantine, like a lot of folks, lost a lot of jobs, like in one fell swoop. At the time, specifically working in production and then losing everything, I had never planned to make something and just make something in the middle of a quarantine. I work with a production company called A Certain Something. We do a lot of theater, and we did a pilot, like a comedy pilot last year, and we came together and said, we're interested in making things together, and let's continue to support each other as we come to the table. So we almost created sort of round table of things that we were interested in working on during the pandemic. My first piece that I came up with was this interesting kind of weird 80s fantasy music video. I was like, this is silly. I enjoy funny. I enjoy Purple Rain. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a Prince fool. I love Purple Rain. Give me the 80s all day. And then the news came forward about Ahmaud Arbery's death, his murder. And at the time, like many of us during the quarantine, I wasn't working out as much and was starting to run and trying to get into a fitness journey. And I found myself wondering what it was that made, how safe did I feel, not just inside of my house, but outside of my house. That was, of course, complicated by the many conversations of COVID, but the conversations of being a Black person in America, a Black woman in America in particular, is that you are the most disrespected, and in many ways the most neglected. And so there were many things that I was thinking about and starting to tackle. And so I sat down and wrote about it, and that became the impetus of Covered.
Thank you. Cherrye, we now have your trailer queued up. What more would you want to tell us to introduce your film?
Sure. Cover is about X. X is in many ways representative of so many people, in many ways representative of many Black women that I know, who consider their bodies every time they walk outside their door, because not just because of what society has told them, but because of what reality shows them every single day. And it's about a woman who's thinking about doing something that a lot of folks don't even think about doing every day. She has to consider some decisions before going for a run.
Cherrye, thank you for sharing that trailer from your film with us.
Thank
Again,
you.
the name of the film is Covered. Hisoni, I really appreciate the intentionality with which your film was produced. You brought together a crew that reflected, as you were saying earlier, the essence of the production, which you describe as a movie made by a passionate group of friends and family. From the writers to the original music and 50% of your crew being women, can you tell us something about building that crew and how it shaped your film?
I can indeed. Um, I can't say that I was virtuous enough to seek the results I got in terms of the crew I put together. I was lucky. They gravitated to the project because there was an aspect of the story that they wished to tell, as best as possible too. And over the course of making the movie, we grew closer, and I understood why I needed them there and why the story needed them there. Um, I was really, really lucky. And again, like for me to have the story feel, it puts a very original twist on a tale as old as time. And I'm crazy proud at how relatable the story is. So yeah, like there was half the crew were female. Again, my producer, my MJ is she's 23 years old at the time, still in film school. My co-producer and DP Alberto Triana, Cuban American, obviously African American, Guyana, and I believe all of us. Of course, my co-writer and lead actress Hetty Wong, just blending our perspectives is what makes the film so relatable. Takeout Girl is the story of a 20-year-old Asian American woman who parlays her food delivery expertise into a little bit of a drug hustle in order to keep her family business open and to give her mother the medical attention she deserves. And what I love about the story is if you find that by the end of it, you would have made some of the same decisions that she made, then I find that you're in a much more favorable position in the eyes of like minorities to have a conversation with them about what life is like in impoverished areas of America. Feel like the film should be required watching for any politician or lawmaker because my contribution to this film was making the film as a person who was once called a super predator, heard my entire community referred to as a super predator, and then watched my friends and family disappear because of it, even though they were simply doing what it took to feed their family and to take care of their friends as best they could with the resources they had.
Thank you. So please tell us a bit about the clip that we're going to see.
The scene I sent you is our lead character. Actually, yes, she is moving her product inside of her takeout food bags as a cover, and she's pulled over by a police officer she never thought she'd bump into, another Asian American, and he's not buying any of her crap.
You familiar with this area, ma'am?
No, not really.
Have you had anything to drink tonight?
No, sir.
Sure? The eyes are bloodshot red.
Nope, nothing. I just had a really stressful day.
Where you headed?
57th and Central. I think that's like right off Slauson.
I know. What's in that red bag?
Chicken chow mein.
I don't smell anything.
I'm sorry?
The food, I don't smell anything.
Oh, it probably got cold in traffic.
I need you to step out the car, ma'am.
Sir,
I asked you to step out the car, ma'am.
Thank you, Hisoni, for sharing that clip from your film Takeout Girl. And finally, Nicole, Can you talk about the visual representation in your film short, Such an Honor, and how that interacts with the theme of growing old gracefully?
Okay. Well, Such an Honor is a short film that is set in the year 2050. And it's a time when it's science fiction. So at this point, any women who actually care about their appearance upgrade into a synthetic body. Now, these synthetic bodies doesn't actually help you health-wise. In fact, it can actually kill you sooner. So it's purely cosmetic. It's purely something that's just expected from you as an older woman. So our main character is an actress who's just been given the Lifetime Achievement Award at the age of 52. And so she has to now figure out, do I actually want to continue doing my career, living my life, because 52 is not a point where you're supposed to be done. But the world is telling her that she'd better either upgrade or just fade off into obscurity. So a lot of what we did with this film was in trying to make it believable as part of the future, as well as giving that sense of just distortion and insanity, and just kind of almost a circus feeling of what the main character is feeling in her head as things go through, and how just bizarre everything is, and how her entire world is just falling apart and not making any sense anymore. So that's kind of where we go, particularly with this clip as well.
My goodness, simply stunning. 65 and still flawless. Upgrades are a gift from God.
Bad.
What the fuck, Aaron?
She had a point, though.
I don't care if her tits are sagging to her toes. Misty fucking Frumpke doesn't get to call her out about it.
And she'll pay for that, but most important, Beth needs that upgrade.
Thank you, Nicole, for sharing that clip from your film, Such an Honor. So here's another question for everyone. Let's talk about what's next. Either your next project or new technology that, especially, post-COVID times, that's especially helpful. Your thoughts on how film and TV as an industry are going to bounce back from COVID-19. What are you excited about next in your cinematic journey?
I'm working on 2 projects right now, and I'm excited about both of them. One is a new series that I'm working with that's collaborating with the Fantasy Network, which is a streaming channel online. And it's called Fantastical Tales from the Worst Timeline. So what we've done is we're taking short films and combining them with commentary from local personalities, people who are really brilliant people, talking about alternate realities and what we can do to help our own reality and how we can actually fix the things that we've got going on wrong right now. So we just shot the commentary with the host, and our current host is Charles Mudede. So we're incredibly excited to move forward and get some things done without having to be in the studio or in the on set too much. So that's almost wrapped, and I'm just writing and doing the writing piece for the documentary, so to say, at this point. And I'm also working on a project called Lioness, which is a combination of animation and live action, which actually starts to deal with modern day slavery with the prison systems. So I'm excited about that as well. And we're going to be on set soon, probably this summer. So I'm excited about those things. And I think that it's really cool is trying to figure out how to deal with COVID and making a lot of what I find to be interesting work out of what used to be kind of hindrances. So I'm really enjoying that. And I'm enjoying watching what's coming out of other people too, on these reasons as well.
I've been, interestingly, a lot of my film work the projects that I'm developing out are actually hybrids of like theater projects, which is really interesting. And I think, welcome, because I think a lot of the theater world is like finally catching up in some ways with like what needs to happen. That's a whole other panel, a whole other conversation. But, so the projects I'm working on, one is actually one chapter is down, the next chapter is coming up. I've been working with a theater collective called the Hess Collective. They do a lot of embodied work based in New York, and they did a piece that was commissioned by UN Women, specifically speaking to gender-based violence around the world. And so these are stories essentially gathered from folks all over the world, specifically focusing on violence against women committed by men. And these are stories that really kind of show us how pervasive gender-based violence is, and how what toxicity can look like and where it comes from. And so I've been working on transferring sort of that theater show into a film project. So the first chapter is up with La Mama and a theater company in New York, and the second chapter is coming in the summer. The second piece I'll be working on is an adaptation of a piece I wrote for Breonna Taylor called 27. I wrote it right on the edge of her 27th birthday, which was last year. And the piece just, it hit me. I wrote it as a spoken word piece, and I think it's important. And so that's what I'm working on now.
I am working on a lot of things. I'm doing a short film series about minority adolescence and young adulthood. It'll be a series of short films that involved a lot of other filmmakers of many different races, essentially telling the stories of really, really important transitional moments or transformative moments for them living here in America. The first chapter is about myself and the story, the title of the short film, which I hope to submit here next year. It's called Blunt, and it is the story of being in an interracial relationship and how I used weed to calm racial tensions between myself and my girlfriend's parents. And I'm super, super excited to do my next feature film, which happens first quarter 2022, and the title is called The Beautiful Mind of Billy Villalobos, and it is about an Afro-Latino man with a terminal disease who's trying to complete his last painting during one of the biggest civil rights protests of the year, as that erupts into violence just outside of his studio. So I'm super excited to also submit that to Seattle Black Film Festival at some point. And yeah, other than that, I'm just trying to figure out how to cook with my spare time.
And another question, in keeping with this idea of looking forward, thinking about possible futures, what is your best advice for younger Black filmmakers or emerging Black filmmakers?
I'd say don't limit your imagination. In so many ways, because I had sort of worked in one capacity, I didn't quite know what was possible in terms of my writing until I started really imagining what something looks like on film and imagining a story coming forward on film. And I think that in so many ways, society wants to keep Black voices small and wants to keep us really kind of here, right? Because that's easy to then label. It's easy to then label us. It's easy to then say, oh, that's a Black story. But we are so much. We are so much, and we are so many colors and so many stories. And so I think I would say, don't limit yourself to what maybe you think something is supposed to be. Dream and see the world in all the colors that you are.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
I 100% agree with that comment. And as a science fiction and fantasy person, we are constantly limited and said, you know, your stories aren't valid. And I think that the more you push against that and the more you write what you want to write and are true to what you want, the more authentic your voice is going to be. And when I say authentic, I don't mean like being put in a little box. I mean the authentic you, which actually no one else has that. So you gotta push that out there, even if that means that you're writing about purple people on the planet Zortip, which has zero to do with race whatsoever. You gotta be you and push that stuff out there and be who you are, because that's where you're gonna find the sweet spot and the good, where you really shine. So.
Wonderful advice, and I'm going to take that myself. But the piece of advice that I'm trying to apply right now, and I think it's an ongoing struggle, but I wish I had learned it earlier, is that I am exactly have faith in the fact that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. As an African American filmmaker, I have grown up knowing that I'm running a 100-meter race, probably 100 meters behind everybody else. So I'm running the 200 and trying to keep up with everybody. So I take it incredibly hard when I put my heart and soul into something, and the initial response or the initial film festivals I want to get into are not what I expect or what I think I need to get to where I'm going. The great thing I've learned in the past year is everything I thought I needed to do to make a successful film and to get it in front of an audience, I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong, because the festival that I put all my hopes and dreams on, I submitted to, we got to the wire, we were rejected, but we got a world premiere at another major one. And on my way to the film festival that accepted us, the one I thought I needed was canceled. So I spent months beating myself up and telling myself I wasn't worthy for something that didn't even happen. And the whole year has been like that. Arguably, my whole life has been that way. So I believe if you have genuine intent and you carry yourself with dignity and you believe in you have a relentless optimism about your own potential, things will fall into place. Even when they look bad, just keep going. You'll be all right.
Thank you all for that wonderful, encouraging, forward-thinking advice. And thank you very much for your time. I know that you're all very busy, and I really appreciate the time you put into this panel. We are excited about bringing your films to audience in Seattle and elsewhere or online. Everybody can watch, and we encourage them to do so. I wish you all the very best with your next projects and any free time, quiet time, creative time that you need to kind of renew and reinvigorate yourself to keep on doing what you're doing. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon, I hope.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Zola.
Thank you. Bye.